The suitcase hit the wooden floor with a muted thud. It was a soft sound, ordinary, even, but it echoed in Mark's chest like a gunshot. He froze in the doorway, half shadowed by the morning light slipping through the hallway curtains. The air felt wrong, heavy, like the house itself was holding its breath. Something was off. He'd driven through the night, cutting his business trip short by a full day. He'd imagined this moment all morning, the way Sarah's eyes would light up when she saw him standing there unannounced. Maybe she'd laugh, call him ridiculous for driving 6 hours just to surprise her. Maybe they'd open a bottle of wine, talk about everything and nothing, like they used to. But now, standing in the quiet, he realized how much silence could hurt. "Sarah." His voice cracked in the stillness. No answer. He frowned, stepping out of his shoes and dragging his suitcase down the hall. The faint hum of the refrigerator filled the space, and beyond it, the ticking of the old clock on the mantel. He noticed things he usually didn't. The faint smell of lavender detergent, the mug on the counter with dried coffee at the bottom, and, strangely, the second wine glass beside it, half full, still glistening. 2 glasses. He picked one up. It was still warm. A knot began to tighten in his stomach. He set the glass down slowly and moved toward the stairs. His heart began to thrum in his ears, each beat thick with dread. Maybe she had a friend over. Maybe Rachel from work, or her sister. Maybe. But his mind didn't believe his own excuses. Halfway up the stairs, he heard it. A sound too soft for mistake, a low murmur of laughter, then a sudden hush. A man's voice, unmistakable, deep and hesitant. Mark stopped breathing. His vision blurred for a second as the realization cracked through his thoughts. Every instinct screamed at him to leave, to walk out and never look back, but something primal, wounded, demanded the truth. He moved one step at a time, careful, his body trembling though he didn't feel cold. When he reached the bedroom door, he saw it half open, a sliver of sunlight cutting through the gap and pooling on the floorboards. Inside, 2 voices whispered. "Did you hear that?" a man asked quietly. Sarah's voice followed, strained, rushed. "It's probably the neighbors. Just come here." Mark's hand gripped the doorframe until his knuckles turned white. For a moment, he couldn't move. He saw flashes of their life together, vacations, laughter over burnt pancakes, late-night talks under blankets. It all hit him in one violent, silent rush. He pushed the door open. The image would burn into him forever. Sarah, his wife of 10 years, scrambling for the sheet, eyes wide with horror. And beside her, half-covered, face as pale as a bedsheet, Tom Everett, their friend, the man who had sat at their dinner table countless times, their daughter's former teacher. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Sarah gasped, clutching the blanket to her chest. "Mark, wait!" But he didn't hear the words. The world around him dulled, colors draining to gray. The air was too thick to breathe. Tom swung his legs off the bed, fumbling for his jeans. "Mark, man, this isn't what." Mark's voice came out as a whisper, trembling with disbelief. "Get out!" "Mark, please, let me explain." "Get out!" The roar in his voice startled even him. Tom froze, guilt carved deep into his expression. For a moment, Mark saw something. Shame, regret, maybe even fear, but it only made the betrayal sharper. Tom pulled his shirt over his head, mumbled something that sounded like "I'm sorry," and slipped past Mark, eyes down, the smell of his cologne lingering behind him like poison. When the door downstairs slammed, silence returned. Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, trembling. Tears streaked her face. "Mark, I didn't mean for you to find out like this." He laughed, a broken, hollow sound. "You didn't mean for me to find out? That's what you're sorry for." Her shoulders shook. "It wasn't supposed to happen, I swear. It just got out of control. We were talking after the PTA meeting and—" He cut her off with a sharp wave of his hand. "Stop." She froze. He stared at her, trying to reconcile the woman before him with the one he thought he knew. Everything felt like an illusion. The framed photos on the wall, the faint scent of a perfume, the blanket they bought together last Christmas. "How long?" he asked quietly. She swallowed. "A few months." He nodded slowly. "Months." He turned toward the window, the early light spilling across the bed like a cool spotlight. I was out there, working double shifts, flying to meetings, trying to build something for us. And you, his voice broke, you were here with him. I'm sorry, Mark, she whispered. It wasn't about you. I felt alone. You were always gone, and Tom listened to me. He saw me. Her words cut deeper than she knew. He clenched his jaw, the muscles twitching as he forced himself not to explode. You wanted to be seen, so you chose him. She didn't answer. Mark took a deep breath, the air stinging in his lungs. You ruined everything. Sarah's sobs filled the room. Please, don't say that. We can fix this. I'll end it. I'll do anything. Just don't give up on us. He turned to face her, eyes burning. Us. He shook his head slowly. There's no us. Not anymore. She reached out, but he stepped back. Don't. The distance between them felt like miles. Downstairs, the clock ticked, relentless. Somewhere outside, a car door slammed, and life went on as if nothing had happened. But for Mark, time had stopped at the bedroom door. He walked out without another word. Down the stairs, through the hallway, past the 2 glasses of wine that still sat on the counter, one for her, one for him. When he reached the door, he paused. His reflection stared back at him in the glass, eyes red, jaw tight, a man unrecognizable even to himself. He whispered under his breath, voice trembling, "You always said honesty was a foundation of marriage." Then he walked out. The cold air hit him like a slap. He stood in the driveway for a long moment, staring at the empty street. He could still hear her crying upstairs, the sound fading behind the walls. He didn't know where to go. Home wasn't home anymore. He got into the car and started the engine. His hands shook on the steering wheel. As he pulled away, he caught a glimpse of the second-story window, Sarah's silhouette there, framed by the curtains, small and crumpled. He looked away. The road stretched ahead, gray and endless. And for the first time in his life, Mark didn't know what came next. The highway blurred beneath the wheels as dawn crawled toward morning. Mark's hand stayed fixed on the steering wheel, knuckles pale. The dashboard clock read 7:42 a.m. He didn't remember when he started driving or where he was headed, only that he couldn't stop. The sound of the tires filled the silence where his thoughts should have been. Every few seconds, the scene replayed. Sarah's shocked face, Tom fumbling for his clothes, the smell of that cheap cologne, over and over, like a film loop burning itself into his brain. He pulled into a rest stop just off the highway and killed the engine. For a long moment, he just sat there, breathing in the faint scent of gasoline and cold air. His reflection stared back from the rearview mirror, drawn, hollow-eyed, aged 10 years overnight. Mark leaned back and closed his eyes. Behind him, Sarah's voice echoed. He saw me. You were always gone. He wanted to scream. He wanted to sleep. He wanted to undo time. Instead, he opened the glove compartment and pulled out the photo album he'd brought on the trip, the small one Sarah had made for him last Christmas. "So you never forget what you're coming home to," she'd said, smiling as she wrapped it in gold paper. He flipped through the photos, their wedding day, her head on his shoulder, their daughter, Emma, on her first day of school, Tom at a barbecue, beer in hand, laughing beside Sarah. That one made his stomach twist. He hadn't noticed then how close they stood, how their hands brushed when they passed the serving platter, how Tom's eyes lingered a little too long when Sarah laughed. The signs were there. He just hadn't wanted to see them. Mark shut the album and pressed it to his forehead, trying to steady his breathing. He stayed there for nearly an hour before his phone buzzed. Sarah, 3 missed calls. 1 new voicemail. He hesitated before playing it. Her voice came through soft, cracked from crying. "Mark, please, don't just disappear. We need to talk. I know I hurt you, but you can't just run away. Emma's at school. She doesn't know anything yet. Please, don't make her see us like this. Just come home so we can talk, okay? I'll wait." He ended the message before it finished. Emma, their daughter, was only 8. She adored Tom, called him Uncle T. The thought of her finding out what had happened made Mark's throat tighten. He couldn't let her see this. He started the car again, but instead of turning toward home, he drove to the old pier by Lake Merrow, their spot. He and Sarah used to come here before they were married, long before the house, the bills, the distance. The place smelled of wet wood and salt. The fog was thick over the water, rolling slow and gray. He got out, stood at the edge, and stared at the rippling reflection of the sky. He thought of all the nights he'd called home from hotel rooms just to hear her voice. All the little lies. "I miss you too. I can't wait to be back," that he'd told without realizing how fragile they were. Maybe she had felt alone. Maybe he'd been blind to that. But why Tom? He threw a stone into the water. The splash broke the quiet. Behind him, gravel crunched. He turned sharply. Sarah stood there, her face pale, hair tied back hastily. She must have followed him. "Mark," she said softly, "I'm sorry. I didn't want it to end like this." He didn't answer. She took a hesitant step closer. "I know I don't deserve you to even listen, but please, let me explain." He almost laughed. "Explain what? That you fell into bed with my best friend? That's not a mistake. Sarah, that's a choice." Tears shimmered in her eyes. I know it was, and I hate myself for it." He turned away, but she kept going. "It wasn't just about him. It was about me. I didn't know who I was anymore. Mark, I became the wife who waited, the mother who did everything alone while you were out saving the world. And when Tom listened, when he asked about me, God, I was starving for someone to just see me." Her words were knives, but not because they were cruel, because they were true. He'd spent years trying to be the provider, the fixer, the stable one. But in the process, he'd stopped being present. Still, he couldn't forgive her. Not now. Maybe not ever. "Why, Tom?" he asked, voice trembling. "Of all people." She shook her head, crying harder. "Because he reminded me of you, the way you used to be." That broke him. He staggered back, hands over his face. The lake shimmered behind her like glass, the wind picking up. Everything hurt. His chest, his throat, his heart. "Does he love you?" Mark whispered finally. "No," she said immediately. "He doesn't. It was never love. It was loneliness. It was." "Convenient," he finished for her. She looked at him, pleading. "Please, don't let this be the end of us." Mark stared at her, and for a moment he almost believed her. He wanted to, but the image of that morning still burned in his mind, raw and vivid. He shook his head. "I don't know how to come back from this." Sarah reached into her pocket and pulled out something small, a folded letter. "I wrote this before I came here. If you can't talk to me now, just read it when you're ready." He took it without meeting her eyes. She turned to leave, but before she reached her car, she stopped and said quietly, "For what it's worth, I never stopped loving you." When she was gone, Mark stood there, letter in hand, listening to the wind whip across the water. He unfolded it. "Mark, I know you think what I did destroyed us, and maybe it did, but please understand, it wasn't about betrayal. It was about emptiness. I thought I was losing you long before Tom ever touched me. You were already gone, even when you were home. That doesn't excuse what I did. It just means I was too weak to face the truth. I kept pretending we were okay because I was terrified of losing you. And now I've lost you anyway. Whatever happens next, please be kind when you tell Emma. She deserves better parents than we were. I'm sorry. I'll always be sorry. Sarah." By the time he finished reading, his eyes burned. He folded the paper and slipped it into his coat pocket. He didn't forgive her, not yet, but something inside him softened. Maybe because he saw himself in her words. Maybe because, deep down, he knew that love wasn't supposed to survive unspoken loneliness forever. When he finally drove home that evening, the house was empty. Sarah was gone, her suitcase missing from the closet. On the kitchen table sat a note. "At my sister's for a while. Emma's with Mom. I'll give you space." Mark stood in the middle of the room, staring at the note. The wine glasses still sat on the counter. He washed them both, one by one, letting the hot water sting his hands. When he was done, he looked around the quiet kitchen and whispered, "I see you now." It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. but it was something close to understanding. And in the silence that followed, for the first time since that morning, the house no longer felt like it was holding its breath.